3 months ago, Canadian defense officials put out a report. In it, they listed the countries that pose a risk to Canadian Arctic sovereignty: Russia, China, and the United States of America. Let me say that again, because I need you to feel how insane that sentence is. Canada, the country that shares 5,525 miles of border with us. The country whose soldiers bled next to ours in the trenches of World War I, on the beaches of Normandy, in the mountains of Afghanistan. The country that called us on the morning of September 12, 2001, before we even asked, and said, "We're with you." That country now officially considers us a potential threat. And the reason, the single piece of geography at the center of all of this, is a mostly frozen ocean that most Americans couldn't find on a map: the Arctic. Take a map of the world. Now put your finger on the very top of it. That's the Arctic. Not a country, not anyone's land, just the roof of the world. A frozen ocean roughly twice the size of the entire United States, surrounded by 8 countries on all sides like slices of a pie. Russia gets the biggest slice, then Canada, then Norway, Denmark, through Greenland, Iceland, Finland, Sweden, and us through Alaska. Now, for basically all of human history, nobody wanted this pie. It was frozen solid. You couldn't drill into it, you couldn't sail through it, you couldn't build on it. It was the one place on Earth that every empire, every navy, every gold rush just skipped. That changed fast. And it happened because of 3 things hitting at the exact same time, like 3 dominoes falling together. Domino 1, the ice is disappearing. The Arctic is warming 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. 4 times. Routes that were frozen year-round for thousands of years are now open water for months at a time. Ice that scientists thought would last until 2100 is already gone. Think of it this way. Imagine a locked vault. For 10,000 years, nobody could open it. Then, almost overnight, the lock starts melting off. That vault is the Arctic. And inside it, Domino 2, what's actually underneath all that ice. The United States Geological Survey, that's our own government's scientists, released a report that stopped a lot of people in Washington cold. Under the Arctic ice sits roughly 13% of all the oil left on Earth that nobody's found yet. 30% of all the undiscovered natural gas. And rare earth minerals, the stuff that goes into every iPhone, every electric vehicle, every military weapon system on the planet, in quantities we're still mapping. We are talking about trillions of dollars worth of resources, not billions, trillions, with a T, sitting there, under melting ice, in a place that, until about 15 minutes ago in historical terms, nobody could reach. If that were a piece of land in any other part of the world, there would already be a war over it. There might still be. This one hits different if you've ever ordered anything online. Right now, today, a cargo ship carrying the stuff you buy, the stuff that fills Walmart and Amazon warehouses, traveling from factories in China to ports in America or Europe, has to go the long way around, down through the South China Sea, across the Indian Ocean, through the Suez Canal in Egypt, around the Horn of Africa if the canal is backed up, then north through the Atlantic. That trip? 21,000 kilometers, about 30 days at sea. Now look at what happens through the Arctic. Same starting point in Shanghai, same destination in Europe. 12,000 kilometers, 16 days. That's not a small improvement. That is cutting the entire journey almost in half. On one large cargo ship, that saves roughly $500,000 in fuel per trip. One ship, one trip, $500,000. Now multiply that by the roughly 50,000 cargo ships moving goods across the world every single day. You're not talking about a shipping lane anymore. You're talking about the most valuable trade highway in human history. And it's opening up right now, whether the world is ready or not. So let's recap what just happened. The world's largest untouched energy reserve, the world's most valuable new shipping route, and the disappearing ice that's making both of them accessible at the same time. All of it sitting in one place. This is why Vladimir Putin has spent 30 years and hundreds of billions of dollars quietly building military bases, ports, and icebreaker fleets in the Arctic. This is why China, a country with 0 Arctic territory, declared itself a near-Arctic state and launched something called the Polar Silk Road. This is why Donald Trump looked at a map and said America needs Greenland. Not because of the polar bears, because whoever controls the Arctic controls the oil, controls the trade, controls the military high ground between the 2 most powerful nuclear nations on Earth. And right now, that's not us. Let's talk about the scoreboard, because right now, today, Russia isn't competing for the Arctic. Russia owns the Arctic. Half of the entire Arctic coastline is Russian. 2/3 of everyone who actually lives up there lives in Russia. And for the last 30 years, while America was fighting wars in the Middle East, Russia was quietly doing one thing: building airfields, radar towers, deep water ports, submarine bases, over 30 military installations north of the Arctic Circle, all of it designed for one purpose: to make sure that when the ice melts and the world comes rushing in, Russia is already there, already in control, already impossible to remove. But here's the number that should keep Pentagon officials up at night. Icebreakers. An icebreaker is exactly what it sounds like. A ship built to smash through frozen ocean. In the Arctic, you don't move without them. They are the keys to every shipping lane, every oil field, every military operation in that region. Russia has 45. 8 of them run on nuclear power. They don't need to stop for fuel, they just keep going. The United States has 3. One of them is 50 years old. Our own Coast Guard, in official testimony, admitted they've been cannibalizing parts from one ship just to keep another one running. Let that image sit with you for a second. The most powerful military in human history, cannibalizing a 50-year-old ship to stay relevant in the most important ocean of the next century. And while we're catching up to Russia, China is catching up to us. China has no Arctic territory, 0. And yet in 2018, they declared themselves, with a straight face, a near-Arctic state. They launched something called the Polar Silk Road, a deliberate, funded government strategy to plant Chinese influence across Arctic shipping routes as part of their global dominance playbook. They currently have 3 icebreakers. A nuclear-powered one is under construction right now. And in 2024, for the first time ever, Russia and China ran a joint military patrol in the Arctic. Together, side by side, 2 nuclear powers, the world's most valuable ocean, a joint patrol, while America has 3 ships, one of which belongs in a museum. This is the situation Trump inherited. And this is the context for everything he did next. When Trump came back to the White House, his first big foreign policy move wasn't about Taiwan, wasn't about Iran, wasn't even really about NATO. It was about a frozen island most Americans have never thought about for 5 consecutive seconds: Greenland. Here's why Greenland matters strategically, and this part is genuinely important. Greenland sits directly between the United States and Europe, right at the edge of the Arctic. It is the single best location on Earth to monitor Russian submarine traffic coming out of the Arctic Ocean. Whoever controls Greenland controls the northern approaches to the entire Atlantic. Military analysts have known this since World War II. America has had a base there since 1951. Trump looked at what Russia and China were doing in the Arctic, the icebreakers, the bases, the joint patrols, and he said, we can't lose Greenland. So far, most national security experts actually agree with that logic. Here's where it went sideways. He didn't propose a defense partnership. He didn't offer a treaty. He said America should take Greenland. He refused to rule out military force. His administration threatened tariffs against Denmark, a NATO ally, if they didn't play ball. His VP flew to Greenland's military base in what looked, to every European watching, like a territorial claim in slow motion. Denmark said no. Greenland said no. Europe said no. NATO got nervous. And then, almost in the same breath, Trump turned and looked at the other country sharing that Arctic border, Canada. He called Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau Governor Trudeau. He suggested, more than once, that Canada should just become the 51st state of the United States. Now, was this a negotiating tactic? Trolling? Pressure? Probably yes, partially. But here's the thing about words from the President of the United States. Even when they're meant as leverage, they land like policy. They get replayed on every Canadian news channel. They get quoted in Parliament. They get printed on protest signs. And what happened in Canada after those comments genuinely changed the relationship, maybe permanently. To get why Canada reacted the way it did, you need to understand one thing about Canadians. They have spent 150 years living next door to the most powerful country in the world. They've made it work. They built the world's largest bilateral trade relationship with us. Over $700 billion a year crossing that border. They share military infrastructure with us through NORAD. They fought beside us in every major conflict of the last century. They were the model of what a peaceful, prosperous American neighbor looks like. But underneath all of that, Canadians have always been quietly, fiercely proud of one thing above everything else: not being American. It is the cornerstone of the Canadian identity. And when Trump started calling Canada the 51st state, even as a joke, he didn't just insult a politician. He poked that identity with a stick. Then came the tariffs. American tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, cars, and lumber. Canada hit back. Billions in counter tariffs on American goods. Ontario pulled every American liquor brand off government store shelves. Canadian travel to the United States dropped by double digits. Buy Canadian went from a bumper sticker to a national movement overnight. And then, in the middle of all of it, Canada held an election. They elected Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada, former governor of the Bank of England, one of the most credentialed economic minds to ever lead a Western government. And he came in with a message that 5 years ago would have been completely unthinkable. He said, "Canada's dependence on the United States is a weakness, and we are going to fix it. Not diplomatically, not carefully." He said it directly, in public, on camera. He said trade talks with America are not normal. He said Canada will not rush a deal, will not take a bad deal. He began building new economic relationships with Europe and Asia. He announced a Canadian sovereign wealth fund, a financial buffer to cushion against American economic pressure. And then, the line that landed hardest in Washington. He announced billions of dollars in new Arctic military spending. Canada, he said, must be capable of defending its own Arctic, independently, from a country that has shared military infrastructure with us for 70 years. That word, independently, is the whole story. That one word tells you everything about how far this relationship has fallen. And it sets up the question at the heart of this video. In an Arctic race where America desperately needs allies, how did we end up making an enemy of the one country that shares that Arctic border with us? Thank you for giving us time. See you in the next episode.